You ever find yourself wondering, am I doing okay with my retirement savings? It's a question pretty much everyone asks themselves, right? Am I ahead? Am I behind? Well, today we're going to dig into the actual numbers and find out. Yeah, we're going to break down the average 401k balance for every single age group. We'll see what's changed from last year and, see how you stack up. And look, this isn't about judging anyone, it's just about getting a real, clear picture of what's going on out there.
And just so you know where all this is coming from, we're pulling from Vanguard's latest How America Saves report. And get this, they looked at over 5 million retirement accounts. So, yeah, when we look at these numbers, we're getting a super solid snapshot of what's actually happening. All right, so let's dive in. We're going to start at the very beginning, what I like to call the foundation years. This is for everyone under 35. These are those crucial years where you're basically laying the groundwork for everything that comes next. Okay, so right off the bat, we've got a bit of a surprise. For folks under 25, the average and median balances they're actually down from last year. Now, hold on, before you panic, the data points to a couple of things. Really high job turnover and a participation rate that's, just over half, only 54%. People are just getting their feet wet, so these numbers can bounce around a lot. Now let's jump to the next group, ages 25 to 34, and you can really see things start to take off. I mean, look at that jump. The average balance shoots up to over 42 grand. This is where that magic of compounding, your money making money, really starts to show up. Careers are stabilizing, and you can also see that big gap between the average and the median. That tells you there are some super savers out there really pulling that average number up. So that makes you wonder, right? Why do some people save so much more than others, especially when they're young? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle comes down to one tiny, almost invisible detail in your company's benefits package. And it's this, the difference between automatic enrollment and voluntary enrollment. Automatic, that's where your company just signs you up for the 401k by default. Voluntary is where you have to physically go and sign yourself up. It sounds like such a small thing, but the psychology behind it is it's incredibly powerful.
And wow, look at the impact. If a company has auto enrollment, 94% of people participate. 94%. But if you have to do it yourself, it drops all the way down to 64%. That's a 30-point difference, and it's all because one way makes the smart choice the easy choice. It's just a huge, huge nudge. So, what's the game plan for these foundation years? Simple. First, just get in the game. Sign up for your 401k and please, at the very least, put in enough to get the full company match. It's literally free money. After that, focus on the basics. Get a budget, build that emergency fund, and crush any high-interest debt. And if you're feeling ambitious, the stretch goal is to push that savings rate up over 15%. All right, moving on. Now we get into what a lot of people call the juggling act. This is for the 35 to 54 crowd. I mean, life just gets complicated, right? You're probably hitting your peak earning years, but you're also juggling a mortgage, maybe kids, and just everything else. And you can totally see that reflected in the numbers. By your mid-30s, that average balance crosses the six-figure mark for the first time. And then it nearly doubles again by your mid-40s. I mean, this is where all that hard work you did earlier really, really starts to pay off. Compounding is a beast now. But you'll also notice that gap between the average and the median. It just keeps getting wider and wider. So a good question is, how do you know if you're on track during these years? It's probably helpful to look beyond just the averages and check out some expert guidelines. Fidelity, for example, has a great rule of thumb. They say you should aim to have 3 to 4 times your salary saved by 44, and then a whopping 7 times your salary saved by 55. I mean, these are serious goals. They definitely require you to be focused. Yeah, your priorities really shift in this phase. The goal is to simplify your financial life so you can just maximize what you're saving. We're talking about aggressively going after zero consumer debt, credit cards, car loans, the whole shebang. It's also time to start really thinking about what you'll spend in retirement. And hey, if you have people who depend on you, you need to get an estate plan locked in. It's all about building that real security. And that brings us to the home stretch, the final countdown. For everyone 55 and older, that finish line is really coming into view. And the focus totally shifts here, right? It's less about aggressive growth and much more about preserving what you've built and getting into the nitty-gritty of retirement planning.
So in that last decade before what we think of as the traditional retirement age, the average 401k balance gets up to over $250,000. But what's really interesting here is that these balances didn't see the same huge jumps as the younger groups. And that makes sense, right? People in this age range are probably in more conservative investments. They're trying to avoid big stock market swings.
Let's just pause on that number for a second. $271,300. That is the average nest egg for someone who is right on the doorstep of retirement.
And here's the really sobering part from the analysis of this data. If that's all you have to live off of for the rest of your life, it's probably not going to be enough for a comfortable retirement. And that right there, that's a massive wake-up call. Not just for people in that age group, but for all of us. And just to round it out, for those who are already 65 and older, that average balance is sitting right around $300,000. You know, at this point, the heavy lifting of saving and planning should be done. It's all about managing those assets to last through retirement. Okay, so we've just looked at a ton of data. And I get it, it can feel a little overwhelming. But honestly, all of these numbers, all these goals and age brackets, they all boil down to one really simple, really powerful idea. So after all of that, what's the one thing, the one lever that you have the most control over? What's the one thing that can change your financial future more than anything else, no matter if you're 22 or 52? It's this. It's your savings rate. Think about it. That 30% jump we saw with auto-enrollment, that wasn't because one group of people were brilliant stock pickers. Nope. It was because one group was simply saving money consistently. That percentage of your paycheck that you put away, month after month, year after year, that is the real engine that builds wealth. That consistency is so much more powerful than trying to time the market. It guarantees you're always building for your future.
So look, at the end of the day, all these averages we looked at, they're just a map. They show you where other people are on the journey, but they are not your destiny. They show you the terrain, but you get to choose your own path. So the only question left is, where are you going to choose to go?